So I study Shakespeare, and one of the things I really am excited about studying with Shakespeare is the importance of books in Shakespeare's culture at his point in history and how that is mirrored in our point in history today. At Shakespeare's time in England, um, there was a massive sort of textual transition going on. The printing press was quite new to England, and it was becoming part of the culture to have printed books, and his plays were among the first several thousand books published in England. This is important. I think this matters. And in the pamphlets and books around Shakespeare, there was a lot of talk about a nostalgic looking back at handwriting as opposed to print. That handwriting was full of character and there's something so sensual almost about the body being involved and writing by hand. And I love looking at how similar these arguments are to the arguments people make today about ebooks versus physical books. Today we are going through our own textual transition, not from handwritten culture to a print culture, but from print culture to a digital culture. And I think with any sort of transition like this, it hasn't happened very many times. Now, like then, there's a lot of sort of nostalgic pushback against that transition. So even though we totally read on our phones or read blogs instead of I don't know, paper newsletters or something that people could write, there are things that are getting very popular in culture, in sort of crafty circles or whatever, and a lot of that has to do with hand lettering. And I'm sort of fascinated with how that shows up in book titles. So, okay, here are a few books that I have that have hand lettered titles. John Irving's new book, Avenue of Mysteries. If you notice, if you look closely at the ends, they don't match. So the designer of this cover didn't pick a font. They just wrote the words by hand in the cover design. One of the first ones that I noticed doing this was John Green's Fault in Our Stars, but other John Green books have a very similar aesthetic. It's you can see people's hands in making this. This is not just hand lettered, but cut out. It's sort of a three-dimensional collage thing going on. We've got the clouds sort of sticking up, and there's shadows, and of course it ties in really nicely with the theme being paper towns. The towns are made of paper. They don't really exist, but they kind of exist because it exist people's imaginations, and that makes it real in sort of a tangible way as well as an imaginative way, which is fascinating. Thousand Splendid Suns has a handwritten but very a stark sort of open looking one, right? This copy of Middlemarch, which I think is super beautiful, has a very trendy hand lettered title and author. Even the foreword by Rebecca Mead is in hand lettering, and the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition down there at the bottom. As I started looking for it, nearly half of the books on my shelf were all hand lettered titles. How Not to Be Wrong, The Mass of Everyday Life. Again, you can see it in the T's. They're not quite the same. It's just a stylistic thing, right? Even Harry Potter, much like the 12th Night, a part of the cover art is in sort of a script writing. Yeah, the 12th Night and the Harry Potter, but then the Philosopher's Stone and the Folger Shakespeare Library, those are all in print. This has sort of a superhero vibe to it. Handwritten there in the little description. Yeah, this is all very has a particular sort of comic vibe. And then another one that I thought sort of also fascinating was Hyperbole and a Half, which is hand lettered digitally, right? It's she uses MS Paint, and instead of typing her words, she writes them, which is painfully difficult to do, but it gives a lot of character to her images. There will be text over down here that is typed, right? But in the images, there will be digitally hand lettered, a lot more expressive hand lettering. Yeah. Shameful, embarrassing menace. Yeah? Like, I don't know. This seems like a thing. So what about you guys? Have you noticed this? Is this something that you think of as being nostalgic, or is it just like a fad going on right now? Is it something that you think is older than this? Most of these books are quite new, or newly published. But I don't remember seeing this kind of style in older books. I know like Trader Joe's in the US has a lot of like hand drawn signage, and that's a very like hipster thing going on. Yeah, tell me about it. I want to hear. Cool. Thanks for watching.